Forming Fiction is a channel not only dedicated to the genre of narrative fiction, although we for sure have to talk about it a lot in the future. Our channel is dedicated to the process of imagination which creates fiction. In our first video we explored what Jung called the active principle of imagination, play. This video is dedicated to a breaching point of fiction and reality, illusions. We start our story about illusions with two characters, namely System 1 and System 2, inherent to the human mind. Who are they? In Thinking Fast and Slow, the Nobel-winning psychologist and economist Daniel Kahneman describes. System 1 operates automatically and quickly with little to no effort and no sense of voluntary control. System 2 allocates attention to the effortful mental activities that demand it, including complex computations. The operations of System 2 are often associated with the subjective experience of agency, choice, and concentration. Like Kahneman suggests, we think about the two as characters within a psychodrama. System 2 believes itself to be the protagonist, but in contrast to its self-image, it is a slacker, only taking action if it's absolutely necessary, and in the meantime, it tries to do as little as possible. System 1 is doing all sorts of things by piloting the brain automatically. But do not underestimate System 1. It is as capable as System 2, but in a different way. While System 2 is mainly active when paying attention, System 1 is computing everything besides your focus and attention. If you are familiar with the monkey business illusion, you know a weak point inherent to the operations of System 2. Go watch it. A link should be in the description and a notification should pop up right now. Surprising, isn't it? Everyone who noticed the monkey reports a disbelief of how someone could have missed it. But half of all those who see the monkey business illusion miss the important detail. The very limited budget of attention is remarkable. Kahneman summarizes the results of a study dedicated to this illusion. The gorilla study illustrates two important facts about our minds. We can be blind to the obvious and we are blind to our blindness. Imagine System 1 and System 2 share an apartment. System 1 would be the kind person who is rather nice but annoying and does not boss around System 2, but is constantly suggesting to take a look at the shared kitchen. Comments on the kitchen situation by System 1 would be, "We should take a look at the kitchen. Do you smell something bad? I have a bad feeling about the kitchen. Did I just see something move in the kitchen?" System 2 has to decide whether the suggestions turn into a belief or not. Hopefully at some point it would create the belief of, the kitchen is a mess, we should try to clean it. System 2 would also interfere the moment System 1 runs into problems or detects errors. Against the best of your knowledge of what is possible, the trash is now a living being, which comes close to the horrors in The Thing. System 2 would search memories for the movie and find a solution to the Thing problem. A sudden move would result in an instant death. System 2 would try to suppress your fight or flight instinct. System 2 monitors behavior and puts you in control. What do you see? What do you perceive by watching these lines? And what do you see now? Is there a difference? What you perceive is the Müller-Lyer illusion. Whenever someone decides to stick only to his senses or perhaps do not believe a statistic because he experienced it differently, I want you to think about the Müller-Lyer illusion. The act of attaching fins to the lines does not change their length, even though we perceive a difference in length. Information about the Müller-Lyer illusion does not change the way you see. Here System 1 is giving you the impression of a difference, but also recognizes the illusionary pattern and suggests it to System 2, which is searching your memories about this tricky pattern. As Kahneman states, when asked about the length of the lines, you will report your informed belief. Side note, please do not think about System 1 and System 2 as located in a specific part of your brain. This is just a metaphor, or as Kahneman calls it, a useful fiction, to understand how thought is processed by the human mind. While we already know the drawbacks of System 2, we did not really highlight the problems of the always active System 1. The emphasis is clearly on always active. System 1's job is to watch for every detail in the shared apartment. Therefore, it measures multiple variables at the same time. And one of them is cognitive ease. Ease is the result of multiple factors, and as long as System 1 recognizes them, there is no reason, like our trash thing, to increase the effort for System 2. If there is in fact a reason, again like our trash thing, we experience cognitive strain. You may notice the problem of how ease can be abused. Critical thinking is a task of System 2, not 1. Still, System 1 is in power when it comes to feeling if something is true or good. Causal argumentation is also more appreciated by System 1 and less likely to raise suspicion. System 2 is nearly always involved when it comes to abstract data. Even though System 2 might be used to a greater extent, the consequence is cognitive strain, which is more likely to make you suspicious, but at the same time, it feels unpleasant. As an example, I will now put on the screen a list of 20 names. I would like you to sort them by fame. Write the most important person on top and the least famous person at the bottom. You can pause the video here. Done? Perfect. Nearly all are made up. But how are Monica Bigowski, David Stamble and Shanna Tirana doing? Hopefully pretty good, because we mentioned them already at the beginning of the video. You just experienced cognitive ease. You have experienced a memory illusion caused by cognitive ease, which is published in Larry Jacoby's article with the fitting title, Becoming Famous Overnight. As Kahneman points out, you experience cognitive ease in perceiving a word you have seen earlier, and it is this sense of ease that gives you the impression of familiarity. It is similar to truth and the illusion of truth. Kahneman again. A reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. The illusion of truth and memory are examples for what Kahneman describes as the illusions of thought, cognitive illusions. Pop quiz. How many animals of each kind did Moses take into the ark? Well, none, but through a Judeo-Christian background instead of Noah, Moses is connected to the ark. Your mind unconsciously detects what Kahneman describes as an associative coherence. A normal event would be any event we are not waiting for, so we pay no attention as we would while System 2 is used to a greater effort, and at the same time we are not surprised if the event would occur. It is a blessing and a curse that System 1 is fantastic at this task. Sometimes even bizarre events are drastically less surprising if they happen for a second time. The cursed part of this was shown to us in the Moses illusion. A little bit of context is enough to convince System 1 that there is no surprise in the question and therefore fails to detect the problem. My favorite illusion explained by Kahneman is the illusion of stock picking skill. Although professionals are able to extract a considerable amount of wealth from amateurs, few stock pickers, if any, have the skill needed to beat the market consistently year after year. Professional investors, including fund managers, fail a basic test of skill, persistent achievement. As Kahneman could prove through his own findings, stock picking is a major industry built on an illusion. The stock market is a contest of dice rolling rather than poker, which echoes in the words of Michael Moore in his movie Capitalism, a Love Story.
So this is what Wall Street has come to, an insane casino. We've allowed them to bet on anything, including our family home.
The only solid way to figure out the stock's value is if a stock is already representative of what the firm is worth. Every new information about the firm has to be incorporated into the price. This nearly impossible task only becomes more complicated when we incorporate what Mark Fisher wrote in his book Capitalist Realism to the generation of value on stock exchange. The way value is generated on the stock exchange depends of course less on what a company really does and more on perceptions of and beliefs about its future performance. In capitalism, this is to say all that is solid melts into PR, and late capitalism is defined at least as much by this ubiquitous tendency towards PR production as it is by the imposition of market mechanisms. Long-term predictions become even more unrealistic. We only have to think about the role of luck and competition. History, for example, is often perceived as the march of history, as in one particular way which it strictly has to follow. Fragility and uncertainty are unpleasant, not causal, and therefore often neglected to be thought of. Just think about the fact that every tyrant in our history had the 50-50 chance to be born into the opposite sex. How different would the world have been if their upbringing and position of power was different? Who would be in power instead? This cascades into completely different circumstances, which becomes impossible to calculate. Cognitive ease and associative coherence factor into the illusion of stock picking skill. Further, think about the monkey business illusion and how blind we are to our blindness. We should change our knowledge about stock picking as a skill and think about it as many different micro skills used to create the illusion of stock picking as a potent skill. Kahneman identifies this and states, "The most potent psychological cause of the illusion is certainly that the people who pick stocks are exercising high-level skills. Imagine how much these individuals who perform complex microtasks could improve our society instead of gambling with the money of already rich CEOs for a living."
These students are then beholden to the banks for the next 20 years. And the best way for them to pay off these banks is to go to work for them, instead of working for the common good.
We've taken people that could be enormously productive, just what we're short of in America, and we take them and we put them in an activity that isn't simply less productive, but where they're actually destructive, where they actually, every day they work, they make the world worse.
They feel justified about their abilities and associate this feeling with a success at the stock market. Imagination due to illusions is a huge part of our economy, and to go even further, fiction is playing a huge part as well. To quote Mark Fisher again, "What late capitalism repeats from Stalinism is just this valuing of symbols of achievement over actual achievement." This is incorporated into various structures, which includes evaluations, surveillance, and auditing. Take Big Brother as an example. The show's concept is surveilling their participants in order for the audience to decide their future. The poll then causes certain events in the show. The poll represents what Mark Fisher described as the Big Other. The Big Other is a collective fiction, the symbolic structure presupposed by any social field. Like in Foucault's Panopticon, the possibility of being observed creates a change in behavior in order to fulfill the desires of the Big Other. But these desires have never been stated. The consequence is a self-determined auditing process of the observed in order to impress the Big Other. Mark Fisher. Government has shown the same tendency to implement initiatives in which real-world effects matter only insofar as they register at the level of PR appearance. A huge bureaucratic structure has to be built to impress the Big Other. The evaluation of interest, the surveillance apparatus, which is performed by representatives or workers themselves, who are forced to adjust their work in favor of expected data, which has to be representative of their work, and the measurement of the efficiency in which everything is performed. At the end of his book, Fisher provides ideas how an effective protest against the implementation of bureaucratic and PR pressures could look like. For the education sector, he suggests not to create a general strike, which harms the students and saves employers' payments, but to protest the fulfillment of bureaucratic structures, which include PR instead of actual education. Going back to our examination of illusions, Mark Fisher points out that when the illusion that the Big Other did not know can no longer be maintained, the incorporeal fabric holding the social system together disintegrates.
But they are prohibitions which are themselves prohibited. Let's give you a simple example that I often use. Let's imagine, what a nice dream, that we are in 1937 in Moscow. It's Central Committee. I sacrifice myself to the role of Stalin. I'm Stalin. I give a speech. Of course, you don't have a choice. You applaud frenetically at the end. Then there is a debate. Okay, one of you raises hand and attacks me. Okay, it's clear what will happen. The next day, the big question will be who has seen that guy alive the last. No? Okay, but let's then say that another one of you stands up and shouts at that guy who criticized me, Stalin, telling him something like, "But are you crazy to criticize Comrade Stalin? Aren't you aware that this is prohibited, that we don't do this in Soviet Union?" I guarantee you the second guy would have disappeared even faster than the first one. So you see the point. It's not only that it was prohibited to criticize Stalin, it was even more prohibited to announce publicly this prohibition.
Fisher is giving us the example of Gerald Radner, who built up a chain of jewelry stores which lost a huge chunk of its value by telling the public that their jewelry was,
I say, because it's total crap.
Customers might have already known this, but as soon as the Big Other had known, the corporation of Radner collapsed. I would like to recommend Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, as well as Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher, which were integral to this video. It is important to talk and think under the involvement of System 2 about the impact of fiction, how to understand and if necessary protest it. To quote Fisher for the last time in this video, "A cynic who believes only his eyes misses the efficiency of the symbolic fiction and how it structures our experience of reality."